Hey, what's going on, everybody? Samuel Akem here, and I'm back with another one. I got a great Tuesday video for you guys today. If you guys are wondering why I'm wearing a more dressed up shirt today, it's because me and my fiance just got done with our engagement photos, and I didn't feel like changing into something more relaxed. I do have my slides on, but I got a button up shirt and some jeans on right now, so hang with me. I got a great video for you guys today. I made a comment today or earlier this week on a Skyline Sports post of them talking about Montana's schedule, and I wanted to do a deep dive of myself and look at their schedule. So I'm going to be breaking down a little bit of Montana's schedule and seeing what I think their record may be coming into the 2023 season. I think they have a very favorable schedule, but we'll talk about, or into the 2024 season. I think they have a favorable schedule, but we're going to talk about that. MTM confirmed this week that the Grizz will no longer be playing Missouri State in 2026, so we'll talk about that and some of the ramifications of that. We're going to be talking about how the flex defense is changing the way offenses play football. We're going to be talking a little bit about that. I know I've played against a flex defense before. I know it's not something that's run a lot, so we'll talk about that. Tarleton State are now officially eligible for the FCS playoffs. Really big news, really big news for Tarleton. We will be talking about that. We're going to be looking at their schedule as well, see what they can do this year. And then I want to talk a little bit about Wisniewski, probably one of the top defenders in FCS football, probably one of the top defenders in the country and all of college football. We're going to be talking about that. Make sure you guys leave me a like. Make sure you guys subscribe down below. Make sure you guys comment down below your thoughts on this video. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know some of the topics that you guys want me to cover going into the season. And I can do that for you. Appreciate you guys for tapping in. Let's get straight into the breakdown. Okay. The date today is July 7th. It's a Sunday. The season is just a little over, or maybe a little under 2 months from starting. Very exciting time of year. Really boring time, honestly, for sports. But very exciting time with football season fast approaching. It feels like, it's been a year since football season ended. It was really only January when football season ended, but it feels like it's been forever. I know everybody's really excited. Montana, I think, has probably one of the most favorable schedules they've had in a really long time. And we're going to be looking at some of their schedule and seeing where we think they could end up. I got a little pen and a piece of paper here. I'm going to write down tallies for what I think are wins, should be wins. I really think, if I'm being honest, if I'm being really, really honest, and I'm not just like, let me tell you guys one thing. Culture Nuanez, Skyline Sports, worked with him a little bit last year. I'm going to be working with him more this year. Something that he's pressed me on and something that I'm really trying to do. And I think you guys, if you guys follow me on socials, you guys can probably tell how, I'm trying not to lean towards Montana. Obviously, I still want to drop Montana content. I'm going to be dropping Montana content, but I'm not trying to be so biased towards Montana. You guys know I love my Grizz. You guys know I'm a Grizz alum. You guys know I'm always going to follow, always going to support my Grizz. But I am trying to get into the media. I do want to cover college football at a more in-depth rate. I do want to cover all of college football. I do want to cover all of FCS football. That's why I try to follow all the other conferences in the subdivision. That's why I try to cover players from different conferences, players from different schools. That's why I try to talk about all of the FCS. I'm trying to broaden my range, so I hope I don't lose any of my Montana fans by saying that. I am going to be covering the Big Sky this year, but I just want you guys to know I'm not going to be so heavily lean towards the Grizz all the time, even though, we're going to talk about the Grizz a lot. It's just like the Cowboys. Why do people talk about the Cowboys? Because the Cowboys win, and people care about the Cowboys. Why do we talk about the Grizz? Because the Grizz are winners, and the Grizz have a strong brand, and people want to play for the Grizz. People want to talk about the Grizz. People want to hate on the Grizz. The Grizz get ratings. That's just what it is. That's just what it is. But we're taking a deep dive into Montana's schedule. First week of the season, Montana is playing against Missouri State. Missouri State recently announced that they will be moving up. I think they're moving up to that Conference USA probably, but they are definitely going up to FBS, leaving that Missouri Valley Football Conference. They've never really competed at a high level at that in that conference. I think that's one win for Montana, making them 1-0 to start the season. I really feel good about that. I'm making an L and a W column here on my sheet. W and L column. 1 dub, Missouri State, week 1. I think that's a fairly easy game for Montana. I feel like that's something that they shouldn't struggle with. I don't think Missouri State is a very formidable opponent. I'm not sure what they've done in the transfer portal. I'm not sure who they brought in or who they retained from last year, but I feel pretty comfortably saying that Montana should be able to handle them. I think that could be a really choppy game for Montana, given that they'll most likely be trying to figure out their quarterback situation during that time if they haven't already figured it out. I think that game, the North Dakota game and the Morehead State game, will be some games for Montana to where they're kind of, playing maybe two quarterbacks, maybe even trying out three, trying to see where the continuity is going to come from, trying to see who's going to be able to play the best on Saturdays. I think those first couple games could be the feel out process, just like last year it was for Montana. But most state, I think that should be a fairly easy dub for Montana. Week 2, you have North Dakota. I think next to North Dakota, I think North Dakota and Western Carolina, to me, are the two most, the biggest test for Montana early on in the season. Really, a lot of times with these non-conference games, they can end up playing a part to hurt you or help you later on in the season. These are teams that don't play in your conference, but could end up, you might beat them. Like, let me give you an example. 2019, we played against Monmouth. We beat them pretty handily. We beat them by like 20 points. Monmouth ended up going on and winning the Big South Conference. I think they might have went undefeated. They might have lost one game. They had a really good squad that year. Early on in the season, we got them. We beat them. That looks really good for us. I think we ended up being a seed that year. We might have been a seed that year. We might not have been a seed that year. But either way, we beat them. That looks really good on us if they end up being really good. So for Western Carolina, we beat them. They say Montana beats them. They go on and win the SoCon. That looks really good for Montana. The SoCon's a pretty strong conference. I think they play pretty good defense in the SoCon. They have some really good teams in the SoCon. Furman was a very formidable opponent last year. That looks good for Montana if they beat Western Carolina or even North Dakota. Say North Dakota, Montana beats, or let's say for this example, Montana loses to Missouri State. Missouri State ends up being terrible in the Missouri Valley. Montana's on the bubble looking for a playoff spot. That might hurt them, given that, say another team played them who's on the bubble as well, beat them. They might get in over Montana because you're looking at those games to where there might be some comparison to be had versus other teams. That's why these games are important. North Dakota, week 2. I think this is probably the most. North Dakota was a playoff team last year. They went pretty deep in the. No, they didn't go pretty deep. They lost to Sac State. I'm pretty sure they lost to Sac State, then Sac State lost to South Dakota. Yes, that Sac State game was a really good game. I think North Dakota and Sac State were trading blows during the game, but Sac State ended up coming out on top. North Dakota is a team that I think could challenge Montana early on this season. I'm pretty sure they lost their quarterback, but they got they got a really good receiver that I think is still there. I think his name is Belquist. They have some good players in North Dakota. They always play good football. They're very sound all around. I think that's going to be a really good test for Montana, especially at North Dakota in the Dome. That'll be a good game, good date for Montana. I'm going to say Montana, brace yourself for this one. I'm going to say Montana is going to drop that game. I'm going to say Montana is going to start the season out 1-1. I think Montana, like I said, I think this is going to be one of those games where Montana's kind of trying to feel it out, trying to figure out things on offense, trying to figure out things on defense. I think the defense will be more solid, even though, and it's kind of crazy to say, I think the defensive system has been beat into these guys so much. I think it's kind of hard for them to really get dominated defensively, even though, you look at the South Dakota game, they put up 20 points. But really, when you look at the 23-3 game, like, that didn't really seem that crazy to me. I thought Montana was very into that game. What I'm trying to say is, when you look at this Montana defense, they're never really going to get beat up like that just because of the scheme, where everybody's at. If everybody's hustling, if everybody's doing their 111th, I think they're pretty solid defensively at all times, no matter what the pieces are. I think it's more so about the scheme than the pieces. Now, when you have pieces like an Alex Gubner, when you have pieces like a Dante Olson, when you have pieces like a Justin Ford, that's when, guys shine. But I think the scheme itself is going to hold up and hold strong. Offensively, obviously, you look at Montana, you look at the weapons that they have, and you think, oh, they should be really good. Any quarterback would love to throw to these guys. But still, there's that continuity piece. There's that, how does everybody work together? Where's that cohesion? What does that look like? All of those things play a part. That's something I'm looking at. I think that could be a game against North Dakota where they're kind of trying to figure it out and they drop one. Please stick with me. 1-1 Montana. Morehead State. I don't think very highly of Morehead State. I have a young bull from Broken Arrow who said he's going to tear it up this year for Morehead State against Montana, knowing that I played at Montana. I hope he has a great game. I'm sorry, brother. I don't think you guys are going to win. I know you guys aren't going to win. Let me not say that. I don't think you guys are going to win. Knock on wood. Either way, so we have Morehead State. That's a dub for Montana. We're 2-1 going into this Western Carolina date, the final non-conference game, which I think could be a very difficult game for Montana, especially defensively. I think, like I said about the defense a moment ago, I think most of the time they're pretty solid. I think the one time that the Montana defense really gets tested is when they're playing against a good quarterback. Eric Barriere in 2021 tore us up. We had a pretty solid defense, probably one of the top defenses in the Big Sky, probably top 20 in the country that year, 2025 in the country that year. Eric Barriere tore us up every time. I'm trying to think of another quarterback we played against. They had a really good quarterback at James Madison that year in the playoffs. He kind of, dotted us up a little bit too. I think where Montana seems to have fits is when they play against a good quarterback. Western Carolina probably has a top 5 quarterback in FCS football. I think they could give us fits, but I think they could give Montana fits, but I think that's when Montana will be starting to figure out things offensively. I think that's when they'll start to, click. They probably will have decided, I hope they will have decided on a quarterback if they're not going with the 2 quarterback system. I think they will have decided on a quarterback at that point. I think the cohesion should be clicking. I think that's going to be a really close game. I think it'll be like a score, maybe even a field goal game at the end, but I think Montana comes out with the dub. They have it at home. 3 of their first 4 games are at home for Montana. I think that bodes very well for them in their non-conference schedule. I'm going to say Montana wins that date against Western Carolina, giving them a 3-1 record going into conference play. I think that's a very good record. Obviously, people are wanting Montana to go undefeated. I think they have the chance to go undefeated. They really could go undefeated. I think the conference is kind of up in the air this year. It's really going to take some time to see who's going to be I think Montana State are going to be good teams. Idaho, I don't know really what to think about Idaho. I remember early on in the offseason, I thought they were going to be really good, but when I really just look at some of the pieces that they lost, some of the pieces that they're bringing back, I think Idaho could have a down year. I don't know. Montana doesn't play them though this year, so that's not really a problem right now. Western Carolina, that's a dub. Eastern Washington is the first game of the conference season against Eastern Washington. Kakoa Vispris, really good quarterback. Efton Chisholm, really good receiver. Nolan Ulm, another really good receiver. One of Keelan White's homeboys. It comes down to defense for me with Eastern Washington. Montana's got a ton of pieces. If you guys can't tackle well and if you guys can't cover down the field, you're going to get torched by Montana's offensive weapons. Running backs all over the place. Receivers all over the place. Best tight end in the conference coming back. Pretty decent offensive line, I would say, for Montana. So I'm going to give Montana the dub against Eastern Washington. I'm going to say Montana gets their first win on the red turf in 2024 against Eastern Washington. Really good game. Really good, exciting game. I'm really excited to watch that one. Next, we have Weber State versus Weber State. So that game, like I said, was at the red turf in Eastern Washington. Next week, you're coming at home. So you're playing Weber State. Did not play Weber State last year. I don't think they played Weber State in 2022. They might have. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong about that. But having Weber State at home, I don't think Weber State's going to be that strong. They're losing Jack Kelly, their all-conference pass rusher, linebacker. I think they run that 3-4, so he's like an edge rush guy. They're losing another linebacker to the NFL. They lost their star kickoff returner, might have been a punt returner, but I know he's a kick returner. Cornerback, he transferred away. I can't remember where he ended up, but he transferred out. So they're losing some pieces defensively. Weber State was not that strong last year in general. I think that should be a fairly easy game for Montana. I'm going to give them the dub, giving them their 5th win of the season, making them 5-1 going into that NAU date. Now, with NAU, I know NAU got Montana last year. That was in Arizona, in the altitude. If you've never played in that altitude, like we played at Southern Utah, I played at Northern Arizona, those places are kind of like, they're different with the altitude. If you're not used to it, if you haven't been prepped on it during the week, it can kind of sneak up on you. You're like, dang, I'm tired. Like, dang, like, I feel like I got asthma. Dang, my breath feels short. Like, what is that from? It's from the altitude, dog. Like, if you've never played in it, that's what it's from. NAU coming to Montana. I feel pretty strong about Montana and their home crowd and, their team this year. I feel really strong about their home crowd, given some of their season ticket numbers that we've seen this year. 95% of their season tickets have, been retained from last year. Really, really big. I think that should be a fairly easy date. I know early on in the offseason, I said NAU was my dark horse. I'm not so much off that. I think NAU could still be a dark horse, but I think the conference is It's gonna be different this year. It's gonna be weird this year. I think NAU probably kept most of their talent. They lost a receiver. I think they lost a pass rusher as well. But I think for the most part, like Alex McLaughlin, their All-American safety. I think he's a safety, defensive back, All-American defensive back, freshman last year. He's coming back. They got their quarterback coming back. I think they have their running back coming back as well. So they have some pieces, but I don't think NAU, I think it was a fluke last year. I think without that NAU loss, Montana probably goes undefeated last year. So take that for what it is. Next we have Northern Colorado. I'm not gonna go too much into Northern Colorado. One of my counterparts, Coulter Nuanez with Skyline Sports. You guys all know him. He thinks Northern Colorado should be relegated to back down wherever they came from the FCS. I don't so much agree with that. I think you just need. I mean, I don't know what they have to do. It's like you need to win to recruit. Northern Colorado obviously isn't getting the premium recruits at the FCS level. I don't know what their facilities are like, but I don't think their facilities are top notch. I just don't think their situation at Northern Colorado is very inviting to athletes who want to come play at the FCS level. I don't think it's very inviting. I mean, it's not that you have to have the best of the best, because I don't think Eastern, I'm not trying to poo-poo on Eastern, but I don't think Eastern has the best of the best, and I feel like they still get decent recruits. But I mean, to compete, you gotta have some amenities, and I don't think Northern Colorado really has that. So I think that's a pretty easy dub for Montana, giving them their 7th win of the season. We're looking at Cal Poly now. Once again, I don't think very highly of Cal Poly. I'm not trying to down them or anything, but they haven't been a very good squad in a while. I mean, when they were running the triple option, they were probably a little better than they are now, just because with the triple option, you're able to control the ball a little more. Teams aren't able to go up and down on the field on you. Even if your defense stinks, your offense is still kind of maintaining things for you. They don't have that aspect. They haven't had that aspect since they went away from the triple option. So, Cal Poly giving Montana their 8th win. They're 8-1 going into this UC Davis date. Now, these last 3 games, depending on how Portland State plays throughout the season, that could be an interesting date, but I don't see that being a difficult date right now. We'll see how they turn out during the season. UC Davis in that Montana State game. These are probably the 2 toughest conference games for Montana. UC Davis and then Montana State, obviously the last one of the season. But UC Davis, what would this be? They're 8-1 at this point, so week 10, maybe week 11 if there's a bye week in there. Week 10 or week 11, UC Davis. I think that could be a test. Land Larison, the quarterback for UC Davis, is also a good player. But Land Larison is really the main piece. I don't think he played last year when Montana played them. So that's something that helped Montana out. Helped Montana kind of, get that dub, kind of, handle things from that aspect. They have UC Davis at home. I think that plays well for them. I think that plays really, really well for them. So I think I'd give Montana a dub against UC Davis. I think it's going to be a tough game. I think that could be a 1-score game at the finish. Obviously, I want to see how UC Davis starts the season out to see how they're doing, but I feel comfortable saying that Montana will get the dub at UC Davis in week 10 or 11, whatever week it is, probably the bye week, so I'm going to say week 11. I feel comfortable saying they'll get that dub, making them 9-1 going into that Portland State date. Portland State, really good squad, ran the ball really well last year. Defense really hurt them. Dante Sachore, really good quarterback, can throw the ball all around, can run as well. One of the best rushing quarterbacks in the Big Sky Conference last year. So I think Montana did a really good job of stopping him from that aspect of his game last year. But I think if that's something that he can put into his game and help him this year, I think that's something that could potentially maybe hurt Montana coming into this game. But I feel comfortable saying Montana gets their 10th dub that of the season against Portland State, making them 10-1 going into the final week of the season against Montana State. Montana State, really good team. Brody Gearby coming back. They lost a piece on defense, Vasquez. I might be saying his last name wrong. You guys let me know. But they lost that defensive lineman who went to Washington. They still have Brody Gearby. I think they put Ryland Ort on the safety position. I'm not so sure about their defensive backs. I think they got some maybe 1 or 2 defensive backs coming back. I think they lost that nickel who was pretty high rated on PFF throughout the season. Offensively, Tommy Malott, Davis, the running back. I think Scottre Humphrey at running back, a receiver. I don't know if it's Cleveland Thomas at receiver, but one of the receivers returned as well. So Dowler also returned as well. Offensive line, Marcus Weir, probably the best offensive lineman in FCS football, plays for Montana State. That's going to be a decent date. I think for Montana State game, for Montana, it all depends on Tommy Malot's health. But looking at the teams right now, Montana or Montana State, one thing that plays in Montana State's favor is Montana State has Montana at home. Montana has to go to Montana State. So that's a really good thing that helps Montana State out. We're at 10-1 right now for Montana. Trying to think some of the things that could play into it. Defense is going to be a big piece of that game. Montana's defense versus Montana State's offense, and Montana State's offense versus Montana's defense. Did I just say the same thing? Montana's defense versus Montana State's offense, and Montana's offense versus Montana State's defense. Either way, you guys get what I'm saying. Defense is going to play a big part in that game. I think Montana probably will have the better defense this year if I just had to guess based off of last year. Special teams could also play a part in that game. Montana's definitely better on the special teams department if we're just judging off last year. If we're putting in totality the special teams units, Montana definitely probably has one of the best special teams units in the country, if not definitely in the big sky. So I feel safe saying that Montana would win 2 of the 3 sides of the ball. Offensively is yet to be seen. The only reason the Montana's offensive side is yet to be seen is because of the quarterback's position. I'm not so sure about the quarterback position of Montana. I'm not sure what it's going to be in 2024. So 2 out of the 3 special teams and defense, I feel safe saying Montana. For that reason, I'm going to give the nod to Montana. I think Montana State will be a very good team. I think this could be one of the closer Brawl of the Wild games we've seen in some years. I think it could probably be close to that 2018 game. I hate talking about that game, but it was a very close game, very tight game, very back and forth game. If you're a fan of football, you probably really enjoyed that game through and through. I think this year's Brawl of the Wild could be similar to that. I think it really could. But I'm going to give the nod to Montana, making them 11-1, repeating their record. Well, they were 10-1 finishing the season last year, 11-1. To finish the season, the regular season, going into the playoffs. I think that's a very realistic record for Montana. Now, obviously, there's some catch games in there. Like, they could drop Western Carolina. I think they very well could drop UC Davis. But there's a lot of those in the conference. Eastern Washington could be an interesting one just at the red turf, given that Montana has never won there. But like Weber State, NAU, Northern Colorado, Cal Poly, and maybe even Portland State, those are like 5 for sure dubs that I feel comfortable giving Montana. And then like even Mo State and Morehead State, those are 2 more. So like 7 dubs for sure. I feel safe saying Montana has for sure 7 wins on their schedule. For sure, I think Montana has 7 wins on their schedule. Now then when you look at Eastern, Montana State, UC Davis, North Dakota, Western Carolina. I think Coulter called them flex games. Those would be my 5 flex games for Montana. North Dakota, Western Carolina, Eastern Washington, just because it's the red turf, UC Davis, and Montana State. Those are the games where it's like it could go either way. And then maybe, obviously, nobody expected Montana to lose to NAU last year, so there could definitely be one of those. And those for sure 7 that I said feel are for sure 7s. There could be one that Montana drops in there. So, that's my full predicted schedule for Montana going into the 2024 season. I see them finishing 11-1 the regular season. You guys let me know in the comments what you guys think about that. I feel pretty confident saying that, but obviously, there could be some ebb and flow in there. So you guys let me know what you guys think about that, and I will move on. Okay. Following that previous topic that we just had talking about Montana's schedule, a deep dive into Montana's schedule into the 2024 season, there was some breaking news this past week. Kyle Hansen of MTM Sports, or K-Pax, broke the news that Montana... some breaking news this evening, as MTM has confirmed that Grizz football's game with Missouri State in 2026 has been canceled, and that is because Missouri State will be an FBS opponent at that point, and I don't know why they would get... My thought is they're going to be an FBS opponent in 2024, or that at that point they will be in the FBS. They don't want to probably chance playing a Montana and losing to a Montana, making them look very bad. That would be my only guess. I don't know really why they wouldn't want to play Montana. I don't know why they wouldn't want to play Montana, but they're dropping the game. It was a home and home. Obviously, we play them at home. Montana plays them at home this year, and Mo State was going to have them at home in 2026. That is no longer. I put it in my notes. This would have been a super winnable FBS game for Montana in 2026. That's why, I'm kind of disappointed to see Mo State drop them from the schedule, because I think Montana could have very easily got an FBS dub on their schedule, even though we all know they just would have moved up. I don't know if that's super significant that Montana is getting that they're dropping that. I would like to know who Montana is going to replace them with. Who do you put on your schedule now? Do you try to grab another FBS team to get another pay game? Or, do you add a lower tier team? What does that look like? Do you add one of the Missouri Valley teams? I mean, it all depends on who has an opening. College football schedules are done way in advance, so it depends on who has an opening, who needs somebody to play. We'll see. We'll see. This could shake some things up, but, pretty bummed about that. As a Big Sky fan, as a Montana alum, obviously I'm pretty bummed that Montana's not going to play them, but, it is what it is. What are you guys' thoughts about that? Leave your thoughts in the comment section below. Little brief topic real quick. Just wanted to, if none of you guys saw it on Twitter, if none of you guys are on Twitter, that is why I'm saying it now. Montana will no longer be playing Missouri State in 2026. They will be playing them in 2024. Thank you. I will move on. Okay. The flex defense. If you guys don't know what the flex defense is, let me break it down for you. In their base alignment, the nose tackle has his hand on the ground, and two other defenders are standing just off the line of scrimmage with two flex linebackers standing about a yard back. So you got the nose tackle on the ball. Two other defenders are standing off the line, most likely D ends or D tackles, standing just off the line of scrimmage with two flex linebackers a yard back. So that's 5 players right there around the line of scrimmage. Those are the wild cards who can do virtually anything. Talking about the flex linebackers, those are the wild cards who can do anything. They can blitz. They could drop into coverage. I think with the D linemen and the other 2 players standing off the line of scrimmage, which are most likely D ends, those guys are almost always blitzing, almost always rushing. There's no way you cannot rush anybody. The nose tackle is probably always going to rush. There's probably some packages where he'll drop, but the nose tackle and those 2 D linemen, D tackles, whatever they are most likely always going to be rushing, trying to get to the quarterback, trying to hold a gap in the run game. That's their responsibility. You can't have them dropping. You can't leave the line of scrimmage like that. People would run down your throat. Those are Mando. The linebackers, those are wild cards. Like they said, those are players who can go back in coverage. Those are players who can blitz. Those are players who can show blitz and drop back into coverage. They can do a whole host of things with those linebackers. If you guys are trying to think of a defense that ran this flex, think back to Portland State. I know they definitely ran it in 20. We played Portland State over COVID in 2021 that spring. I believe they were still running the flex then. I don't know if they ran the flex last year or if they're still running the flex. I know in 2021 when we played them, they ran the flex. I believe in 2018 when we played them, they ran the flex as well. So yeah, one thing about the flex defense that makes it so hard is when you constantly have these players moving around. Basically all the players are standing up, they're roaming around pre-snap, showing blitz, showing that they're going to be in coverage, just doing a whole host of things. It makes it hard for offensive line. Offensive line play is all about communication. Offensive line is all about that center getting the call to the guard and the tackle on the right side, the guard and the tackle on the left side, and them all working as a cohesive unit. Communication. That comes with counting the offensive line. Are they an odd front? Are they an even front? Is the center odd, meaning is the center covered up? Most likely a 3-man front. Is it an even front? 4 down linemen, center not covered up. Then what are the linebackers? Who's the Mike? Who are we counting as the Mike? Who are we counting in this blocking scheme? There's so many calls that need to be made by offensive linemen. With a flex defense, it makes it very hard for you to decide who the Mike is. It makes it very hard for you to count is it odd or even. It's most likely probably going to be odd because the nose tackle is probably always going to be head up with the center. My guess is that the nose tackle is always going to be head up, but just like that's the whole point is for the most part with defenses are always reacting to something that the offense did. So defenses are working off of tendencies. It's 3rd down. They like to run mesh on 3rd down. 3rd and short, they like mesh. 3rd and long, they like dagger. 3rd and medium, they like draw. I mean, there's a whole host of different tendencies that offensive coordinators like to call in certain situations. We're in the red zone. They like to go T-bone formation and run power. They like to run insert. Whatever it is, like there's so many different things that offensive coordinators do in situational football. Well, flex looks to change that. Flex defense looks to dictate what the offense runs. We're no longer reacting to what you're doing. We're making you react to what we are doing. So say we're showing zero coverage. We're showing no high safety. We're trying to dictate what you're going to do, and we're just going to throw the safety out there late, have the safety bail late, and show you one high. Get into man coverage. The one thing about flex defense, and this is probably why you don't see it a lot, this is something that they mentioned in the article that I read on ESPN. Make sure you guys go read that. One thing I saw that they mentioned in the article was that one thing that the flex defense doesn't help you with, and the one thing that you do notice when we played Portland State back in the day, is that I think even in 2019 when we played them, they were running that flex defense as well. Because I remember they might have even been running like a weird inverted defense. I can't remember. I know they ran the flex at some point. Either way, what I'm trying to say is one thing that's kind of shades a lot of defensive coordinators away from running that flex defense is man. To run this defense, you got to run a lot of man. You got to have good defensive backs. And I think that's why a lot of defenses can't run it. Because you have to have a lot of faith in your defenders. Running man coverage is tiresome for defensive backs. If you're running it 60 plays out of the game, your defensive backs are going to be dead. I mean, we saw it with Atlanta in the Super Bowl. And when Tom Brady came back, they ran man, trying to, stop the short routes, trying to stop the quicks from the Patriots, trying to be in the hip pocket of all those receivers for Tom Brady. It worked the first 3 quarters, but during the fourth quarter, when the Patriots, during the late in the third quarter, during the fourth quarter, in the second half, when the Patriots started to make their comeback, the defensive backs for Atlanta were exhausted. And I think that played itself out and manifested itself out in the Patriots ultimately winning the game. It's so tough to run man coverage for all plays of a game, for the whole time in a game. And I think that's why a lot of people don't like running the flex defense, are unwilling to run the flex defense. You got to have good defenders willing to play man coverage. But, this is a defense that is very different. Like I said, I don't think a lot of defensive coordinators want to run it. I don't think they prefer to run it. But let me read you a little quote from that article. We have non-traditional players aligned in spots where they normally don't align. So, you have defensive linemen standing up at a linebacker position. You have a linebacker on the line of scrimmage looking like he's about to blitz, looking like he's about to rush like a defensive tackle. Don't line. And they have the ability to do a lot of non-traditional things, May said. That's the head coach they were talking about who runs this defense at a D2 in Seton Hill. Every offense has a playbook with all different looks they're likely to see. They're not going to see a picture of our defense in there. And that is the biggest thing as well. Offenses, when you're game planning for the week, you have your GAs cut up all the film. You have them break down the film. Give us the analytics of what they run. On third down, they run this most of the time. Or let me tell you as an offensive player. On defense, they run cover 3 on third down 60% of the time. The other 40% of the time, they're in man. There's a small 1% in there where they run quarters, but they only did like 2 cutups where they ran that. On first down, they're most likely going to be in a base 4-2-5 defense, and they're going to run, 2-man. They're going to run Tampa 2. They have these cut-ups. They give you the play. They give you the game plan for the week. They give you the whatever the game plan is, like they give you the game plan for the week, the plan of attack, whatever your team calls it. And that's where you're going to see all the coverage breakdown. That's where you're going to see all the percentage of a win they coverage call that. That's where you're going to see a couple of the tendencies for the offensive coordinator for the defensive coordinator in terms of coverages and things of that nature. What they're basically saying with the flex defense is, you don't know what we're going to run because there's never a rhyme or reason to why we're doing something. It's not supposed to make sense to you. We're supposed to keep you confused. You react off of us. We're no longer reacting off of you. I know I already said that. Most offensive play callers call plays based off of a defensive tendencies. Well, this becomes much harder when a defense has no tendencies. And this is the core concept of the flex defense. It makes it difficult for the offensive play caller to catch on when to win and what is coming. The ultimate downfall of this defense is the necessity of good man defenders on the back end, which probably scares off a lot of DCs. Like I said earlier, having good man defenders in a flex defense isn't a want, it has to be a need, and it is mandatory. Most definitely. Having good man defenders in a flex defense is mando. Gotta have it. Not a question about it. But you guys let me know what you guys think about the flex defense. Have you guys ever seen anybody run the flex defense? What are you guys' thoughts on the flex defense? I think it's very interesting. I think it does give offensive coordinators fits. I would be interested to see how many high school or how many even college teams are running this. How many NFL teams are running this? I think Wink Martindale with the Giants, I believe he's with, is somebody who kind of runs this flex defense. I think he's somebody who kind of maybe is a pioneer, not so much like an inventor of the flex defense, but I think he's somebody who's, really brought it, who's really used it ad nauseum in the NFL. You guys let me know what you guys think about the flex defense. Do you guys think it's something that teams could work, that it could work with teams? Do you guys think it's just, a gadgety type defense, a defense meant to, trick people up? What do you guys think? You guys leave me a comment down below, and I will move on. Okay. This is a topic from Sam Herder. Saw a tweet from him a couple of days ago. Might have been yesterday or the day before. Tarleton is number 18 in Hero Sports FCS preseason top 25. The Texans are now eligible for the FCS playoffs after finishing their transition from D2. Finished 8-3 last year while ranking number 5 in FCS home attendance with 18,697. Tarleton is a team that I think was a really good D2 squad. They played really well at D2 while they were at D2, and 8-3 last year. Given the conference that they play in, and given that they didn't win their conference last year, I don't think that 8-3 would have got them in the playoffs. But I think that 8-3 says they're a pretty damn good squad. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, Tarleton is the squad with the really good running back who squats a lot, Shunderick. I'm blanking on his last. Might be Shunderick Powell. That might be Central Arkansas, though. I think actually Shunderick Powell goes to Central Arkansas. Either way, Tarleton was a pretty good team last year in the United Athletic Conference. We're going to look at their schedule for 2024 and see guess what we think they could do. McNeese, we all know, I know there's a lot of Grizz fans who watch my channel. We all know McNeese has Clifton McDowell there now. I'm guessing he's probably going to be the starter. Tarleton, that could probably be a good game for Tarleton. Given how McNeese was last year, though, I'm going to give the nod to Tarleton. They are at Baylor. I don't think they beat Baylor. Nothing against Tarleton, but Baylor, really good Power 5 school, Power 4 school. They're at Houston Christian. I think that should be a good game for them. I think they can win that. North Alabama. I think they can win that North Alabama date. Sela, I think could be a close game, but I think they should handle Sela. Southern Utah. I think they can get Southern Utah in the United Athletic Conference. Utah Tech, I think they can get Utah Tech. Austin Peay, who won the United Athletic Conference in 2023. I think that could be an interesting date for them. I think that could be a challenge for them. I don't think they'll beat Austin Peay. I think that'll be a good game for Tarleton. Eastern Kentucky, I think they can get Eastern Kentucky. I think they can get Austin Peay too. I think Austin Peay lost their quarterback this year, and Austin Peay lost a lot, actually. So I'm actually going to change what I said. I think they could get Austin Peay. So far, 1-1, 2-1, 3-1, 4-1, 5-1, 6-1. Going into that Austin Peay date, given the Baylor date, I think Tarleton could be 7-1. Following that Austin Peay date, I think they could get Austin Peay. I think Austin Peay lost quite a bit. They lost some receivers. They lost their quarterback. They probably lost some things some players on defense as well. I like Tarleton to beat them at Austin Peay later on in the season. Eastern Kentucky, I feel safe saying they could beat Eastern Kentucky, but I don't know much about the United Athletic Conference. I know they're not very strong. I feel safe with some of those teams early on. I think Northern Alabama and Sela could be two, interesting dates for them. So that's kind of a throw up. But I think Southern Utah, Utah Tech, Austin Peay, I know about Austin Peay. Eastern Kentucky, I think they could be a good team, but I think Tarleton could beat them. Really what I'm trying to gauge, West Georgia and then ACU and UCA. So I think they could drop a couple of those. I think Tarleton could be a playoff team in 2024. Just looking at their schedule, I think Austin Peay is one of those dates that's interesting to look at. I think I think Austin Peay, Sela, and UCA, Central Arkansas, are two big dates. They finished the season with Central Arkansas, so that could be a potentially interesting date for them. But I think, how many games they have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So they have 12. I think conservatively, I could see Tarleton finishing 9-3 and making the playoffs in 2024. The three being UCA, Austin P, and Baylor. But I mean, to be honest with you, if they lose to UCA and Austin P, two teams in their conference, does that make them a playoff team, especially playing in a weaker conference when, they only have an auto bid? I mean, they only have an auto bid? If you win the conference, that's your auto bid. But outside of that, you have to get I don't know all the terminology for the FCS playoffs, but you guys know what I'm talking about. They're not going to be one of the 16 seeded teams, and if you're not, then you have to hope that you're one of the 8 that get put into the pool with everybody else from every other conference. You got to deem how they think the strength of your conference was, how they deem the strength of your schedule was. I think their schedule strength looks decent, but I don't know how. I mean, Austin P are the tough game. Central Arkansas is a tough game on their schedule, but I don't see any other tough games. Maybe SELA, depending on how they are. Northern Alabama, maybe. But I really see 2. You don't really count Baylor because Baylor's an FBS opponent. If they beat them, that looks good for them. But if they lose, nobody really holds it against them. So, we'll see. I think their record conservatively could be around 8-4 or 9-3 in 2024. I feel safe giving them an 8-4 to 9-3 record in 2024. It could be better and it could definitely be worse. But I think safe that. I feel safe saying SFA, or I think it's safe. I feel safe saying that Tarleton will be a playoff team in 2024. I think they could end up being a playoff team in 2024. All depends on how they do in that UAC conference. Like I said, it's not a very competitive conference, but we will see. You guys let me know what you think about in the comments about that, and we will move on. Okay. Now, this is going to be I'm not going to talk at length about this. This is a shorter video this week. Obviously, it's a very down period with news, with sports news, football news, FCS news, for sure. Like, nobody's really talking about football a lot right now. There's not a lot of topics to cover right now, so I appreciate you guys for hanging in there with me, but it'll ramp up a little bit more. I got some things working on with Cole coming real soon. Cole Wisniewski, North Dakota State's star safety / who moved, actually, I didn't even know this, doing a little research on him, went from linebacker to safety, and obviously has worked out for the best for him. Best safety in the country, I say. Zach McKinnell thinks that, I think he was a Hampton safety he thinks is the best safety returning in college football. I would disagree. I mean, if you give your team the ball back with 8 interceptions, I think that automatically puts you at the top. Like when Justin Ford in 2021 had, 9 interceptions, had a string of games straight interceptions, but 9 interceptions. If you're giving your team the ball back that much, I think it's hard to say you're not one of the best defenders in the country. I think it's very hard because, I mean, getting interceptions is tough. Some of the best players in football never come up with the ball. And maybe you could say defenders in football never come up with the ball. And maybe you could say that's because people aren't throwing them the ball. But also it's like, you got to learn how to debate that quarterback to make that throw, to think he has a throw, to then make that break on the ball and go get it. Go make the play. Either way, Cole Wisniewski, FCS Football Central, my guy Zach McKinnell at FCS Football Central has him ranked as the second best returning safety in FCS football. I would say Cole is a top 5 returning defensive player in all of FCS football. I would honestly call him one of the best safeties in college football in general. I'd put him top 5, top 10 in the country. I know there's a ton of good defensive backs, a ton of good safeties at the FBS level. I think Cole Wisniewski can hang with them. He plays downhill in the run game, not afraid to go make hits. He also, like I said, is a ball hawk. 6'4", 219 pounds. I think he's ideal weight and size for a really good rangy safety. Now, I think he's probably more of a strong safety than he is a free safety, but given the amount that he takes away the ball, I think it's hard not to say he can play free safety as well. But I think just given he led North Dakota State in tackles last year with 92 tackles as a safety, so I think that shows that not only is he taking the ball away with 8, leading the country, led all Division I players with 8 interceptions, but 92 tackles on that North Dakota State squad, who wasn't the greatest last year during the regular season, but really came on strong in the playoffs. Leading that team in tackles is a great feat. I think it's really good for him. I think that shows his range as a safety. Not only can I play in the box, but also can I play over the top and make plays, break on the ball, get interceptions, get the ball back to my offense. I think that's really good. An FCS 88 All-American, Stats Perform First Team, FCS All-American, AP FCS All-American First Team, All MVFC First Team. He's got all the superlatives. I didn't even list all of them. He had a laundry list of accolades on there. I didn't put them all on there, but he's got a ton of accolades. He's a really good player. I just wanted to highlight him real quick. I wanted to do a breakdown on him I wanted to only really do a breakdown on him if I could get all 22 film of North Dakota State. I was unable to get North Dakota State all 22 film. That is the only reason why I didn't do a Cole Wisniewski breakdown. I really would have liked to do a breakdown on him. I'm very high on him. I think he's one of my favorite players coming into the 2024 season. I'm really excited to see how he does this year. He almost had his 9th interception against Montana on a screenplay, almost slid down and made the interception. It would have been a crazy interception if he would have made it. I honestly might have to pull up that film. I do have that film, that Montana versus North Dakota State, all 22. I do have that. But I can't do one whole Cole Wisniewski breakdown on that game. I'm not sure how he played during that game, but yeah. You guys let me know what you guys think about Cole. I think he's a very good player. I think he's a dog. He's one of my, like I said, one of my top players coming into this season. Very downhill player in the run game. Also great range to make plays all over the field. Some of the things that I already said. Yeah, just a quick topic I wanted to cover. I wanted to give him some shine. I wanted to give him some love. Obviously, I don't think he's short of love in that North Dakota State area. I don't know if Montana fans are very aware of him. I don't know if any Big Sky fans are very aware of him. But he's a player in the FCS who's doing damage and who I think is going to get drafted probably top 3-4 rounds in the draft next year if he has a good season, if he maintains what he does, plays downhill, gets a few interceptions, tests well in the combine. If he gets invited to the combine, I think he's a player who could potentially go to the Senior Bowl or Shrine Bowl or NFLPA Bowl or Hula Bowl, one of those really good bowl games. I think he could end up at one of them, probably, Senior, Shrine, or NFLPA if I had to guess. I'm sure that, the Senior Bowl is probably keeping a close eye on him. They usually have a close eye on some of the NDSU players, some of those MVFC players, but I think he's somebody who could ball out. You guys let me know what you guys think about Cole Wisniewski. Have you guys seen his game? Are you guys aware of him? I think he's one of the best safeties in the country, regardless of division. You guys let me know. You guys let me know, and I will move on. Okay. Thank you guys so much for tapping in. Thank you. Give me just a second. Okay. Before I ended my video today, I actually wanted to talk about a great thing that I don't know if everybody is aware of. I know he posted on Twitter. I don't know what other socials he posted. I know he posted on Instagram too. Keelan White. I actually had this last week and I meant to show it in my video last week. That was on me. I didn't get the chance to. I forgot. Keelan White dropped his own coloring book. You can see it right here. The Canadian Spider. I know you guys saw his spider theme last year, of the spider theme that he was doing last year. And, this is just really cool. I remember I talked to him about it at the Grizz 7-on-7 this summer. And, this is just really awesome. Like, you get to see some of these, like, here you go. You get to see him making that catch. I think that was against NDSU. Actually might have been against Idaho State, I think. And then you see he's got the coloring version. But, I just think this is really cool. Like, who have you seen do something like this? Who have you ever seen drop a coloring book for kids? I think everybody's always appealing to the older fans. I think everybody's always, obviously they participate in the camps. Obviously they participate in all the community outreach events. But I think something like this for the kids where it can be interactive, to where you can get them to sign, say, Keelan signed my coloring book, but also, I get to color in some of the pictures of him. I think this is really cool. Obviously, it's his first edition. He might drop another one. I know he mentioned that he might drop a second edition, but go check out Keelan White's book. You can get it on Amazon. I will drop the link down below. Make sure you guys support Keelan White. Make sure you guys support my young dog. Doing really big things for the Grizz, doing really big things in the community of Canada, but also in the Missoula community. And also, he's a really good player for Montana. So make sure you guys go support him. Make sure you guys show him some love. Make sure you guys go cop that. Nobody else is doing this. Who do you know in college has a coloring book? You guys let me know. I'll wait. Oh, nobody? Oh, okay. Yeah, well, make sure you guys go check out Keelan's coloring book. Make sure you guys go cop one. I will put the link down below in the description. Make sure you guys support him. Make sure you guys support. But along those lines, that will conclude my video for today. I appreciate you guys for tapping in with me. I appreciate you guys for continuing to stay loyal to my channel. My channel is growing every day, gaining subscribers. Make sure you guys tell a friend about me. Subscribe. If you're watching right now, subscribe, hit the like, leave me a comment. Any content you guys want to see, any vlog type content, any interview type content that you guys would like to see, leave me a comment and let me know. I really do read your comments. I really do appreciate the comments that you guys leave, and they mean a lot to me. The support means the world to me. I thank you guys so much for continuing to tap in. I will catch you guys next week.